You being nice enables true evil, feeds predators, and puts you in society's perfect cage. But first, if you've ever felt invisible despite being a good person, if you've watched less qualified people get ahead while you're stuck, if you're tired of being taken for granted, this video will change your life, and I can prove it. By the end, you'll know exactly why nice people finish last, and more importantly, how to flip that script without losing who you are. But you need to stick around for the psychological twist at the 9-minute mark, because that's when everything clicks. Listen, I used to be the nice guy everyone loved to walk all over, until I discovered something that changed everything. And what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you've been taught about yourself, humans, and success. 3 months ago, I watched my coworker get promoted over me, again. Sarah had been at the company for half the time I had. Her work was decent, but nothing special. Yet there she was, shaking hands with the CEO while I sat at my desk, wondering what I was doing wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every interaction, every meeting, every moment where I'd smiled and nodded while others took credit for my ideas. And that's when it hit me. Maybe being good wasn't enough. Maybe I'd been playing by rules that didn't exist. But what I discovered next would completely flip my understanding of how the world actually works. See, I started studying people differently. Not their words, but their actions. Not what they said they valued, but what they actually rewarded. And the pattern I found was disturbing. The people getting ahead weren't the kindest. They weren't the most honest. They weren't even the most talented. They were the ones who understood something the rest of us missed, something that's been hidden in plain sight for centuries. Here's what nobody tells you about human nature. We don't actually reward goodness. We reward perceived power. And the nice people, we're the perfect targets. But before I reveal exactly how this works, let me tell you about the moment everything clicked. It was a Tuesday morning meeting. Our team was discussing a project I'd been working on for weeks. I'd done the research, created the presentation, even stayed late to perfect every slide. But when it came time to present, my manager said, "Actually, let's have Jake take the lead on this one." Jake, who joined the project literally the day before. I watched him present my work to a room full of executives. And you know what he did? He looked confident. He spoke with authority. He acted like he owned the room. Meanwhile, I sat there thinking, but that's not fair. Sound familiar? Here's the thing that hit me like a truck. Jake wasn't smarter than me. He wasn't more qualified. He just understood something I didn't. The game isn't about being right. It's about being convincing. And while I was waiting for my goodness to be noticed, Jake was busy controlling how people perceived him. That's when I realized I wasn't losing because I lacked talent. I was losing because I didn't know the rules. But the rules I discovered next, they're going to make you uncomfortable. Everything we've been taught about success is backwards. Work hard and you'll be rewarded. Lie. Good things come to those who wait. Bigger lie. Just be yourself and people will appreciate you. The biggest lie of all. Here's what actually happens in the real world. The hardest workers get more work, not more recognition. The people who wait get passed over by those who act. And the people who are just themselves, they get categorized, predictable, and ultimately dismissed. I spent years believing that if I just did good work, people would notice. If I was just kind enough, patient enough, honest enough, the world would reward me. But then I started paying attention to who actually gets the promotions, the relationships, the opportunities. It wasn't the saints, it was the strategists. The people who understood that perception trumps reality every single time. And once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. But here's where it gets really dark. The people who succeed aren't necessarily better than you. They just know something you don't. They know that humans don't make logical decisions. We make emotional ones. Then we rationalize them afterwards. They know that confidence beats competence in almost every scenario. They know that scarcity creates desire, while availability breeds contempt. And quote, and most importantly, they know that nice people are easy to exploit because we assume everyone thinks like us. Here's the moment this became crystal clear to me. I was at a networking event, watching two people work the room. Person A was genuinely interested in everyone they met. asked thoughtful questions, listened intently, made real connections. Person B, they name-dropped, they exaggerated their accomplishments, they dominated conversations. They were honestly kind of obnoxious. Guess who everyone remembered the next day? Person B got 3 job offers from that event. Person A got polite LinkedIn connections that went nowhere. That's when I understood. The world doesn't reward authenticity, it rewards memorability. But here's what really messed with my head. I started testing this. Small experiments in my daily life. Instead of immediately saying yes to every request, I started pausing. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. Instead of explaining myself when I disagreed with someone, I just said, I see it differently. Instead of being available 24/7, I started taking time to respond to messages. The results were immediate and unsettling. People started treating me with more respect. My opinions carried more weight. Suddenly, my time seemed more valuable to others. I hadn't become a different person. I just changed the perception of my value. And that's when the really uncomfortable truth hit me. Most of us are unconsciously training people to treat us poorly. Every time we say yes immediately, we signal that our time isn't valuable. Every time we over-explain ourselves, we signal insecurity. Every time we're completely predictable, we signal that we're not worth paying attention to. We think we're being good people, but we're actually being forgettable people. The nice guys and good girls who wonder why they're invisible? We're invisible because we've made ourselves invisible. But the people who seem to effortlessly command respect, they've learned to control their image. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds manipulative. This sounds fake. This isn't who I want to be. I thought the same thing. But then I realized something that changed my entire perspective. The people who are naturally charismatic, they're not being fake. They've just learned to present their authentic selves in a way that commands attention. The confident people, they're not necessarily more confident than you. They've just learned to project confidence even when they don't feel it. The successful people, they're not necessarily more talented. They've learned to market their talents effectively. Here's the brutal truth. In a world where everyone is competing for attention, being invisible isn't noble. It's just ineffective. Your ideas don't matter if no one listens to them. Your kindness doesn't matter if people take advantage of it. Your talent doesn't matter if no one notices it. But here's where this gets interesting. Once I understood this, I had a choice. I could stay bitter about how unfair the world is, or I could learn to play the game better. So I started studying the people who seemed to effortlessly get what they wanted. Not to become them, but to understand their strategies. And what I found was a playbook that's been hiding in plain sight for centuries. The most powerful people in history weren't the nicest. They were the most strategic. They understood that leadership isn't about being liked. It's about being respected. They knew that trust isn't built through constant availability. It's built through consistent reliability. They realized that influence isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. Here's what I learned from studying them. The scarcity principle. What's rare is valuable. What's common is overlooked. The people who are always available become background noise. The people who are selective with their time become sought after. The authority principle. People follow confidence, even when it's not backed by competence. The person who speaks with certainty will be heard over the person who hedges with maybe and I think. The social proof principle. We value what others value. The person who's surrounded by successful people is automatically seen as successful. The person who's always alone is seen as alone. But here's the part that really messed with my head. None of this requires you to become a bad person. It just requires you to become a smarter person. You can be kind and strategic. You can be generous and selective. You can be authentic and influential. The people who struggle aren't struggling because they're too good. They're struggling because they're too naive. So I started implementing these principles, not to manipulate people, but to protect my own value. I stopped over-explaining my decisions. I started stating them with quiet confidence. I stopped saying yes to everything. I started being selective about where I invested my time and energy. I stopped trying to prove myself to everyone. I started letting my results speak for themselves. And here's what happened. That promotion I'd been passed over for 3 times, I got it within 6 months. Those colleagues who used to ignore my suggestions, they started asking for my input. That social anxiety that made me feel invisible at networking events, it disappeared when I realized I didn't need everyone to like me. I just needed the right people to respect me. But the biggest change wasn't external, it was internal. I stopped feeling like a victim of other people's success. I started feeling like the author of my own. I stopped being angry at the world for being unfair. I started using that unfairness to my advantage, because here's the final truth that changed everything for me. The world isn't going to change its rules for you, but you can learn to play by its actual rules instead of the imaginary ones you were taught. Being good isn't enough if you want to make a real impact. You need to be good and effective. Being right isn't enough if you want to influence others. You need to be right and persuasive. Being talented isn't enough if you want to succeed. You need to be talented and strategic. The people who change the world aren't the ones who complain about how it works. They're the ones who understand how it works and use that understanding to reshape it. So here's my question for you. Are you going to keep being invisible, hoping someone will notice your goodness? Or are you going to learn to make your goodness impossible to ignore? Because the strategies I've shared with you today, they're not just theories, they're tools. Tools that can transform how people see you, how they treat you, and how they respond to you. But only if you're brave enough to use them. 3 months ago, I was the nice guy everyone ignored. Today, I'm the person they come to for advice. The difference wasn't that I became mean. The difference was that I became strategic. I learned to protect my kindness with intelligence. I learned to back my authenticity with authority. I learned to combine my good intentions with good strategy. And you can too. But here's the thing. Knowing this information isn't enough. You have to apply it. So I want you to try one thing this week, just one. The next time someone asks you for a favor, don't say yes immediately. Say, let me check my schedule and get back to you. The next time you disagree with someone, don't over-explain. Just say, I see it differently. The next time you want to text someone back immediately, wait 20 minutes. Small changes, but they send a powerful message. Your time is valuable. Your opinion matters. You're not desperate for approval. And watch how people start treating you differently. Because once you understand that respect isn't earned through niceness alone, but through the strategic application of your value, everything changes. But here's what I didn't tell you in this video. There's a dark side to mastering these strategies. A psychological trap that 90% of people fall into when they first start applying this. It's called the power paradox. And if you don't know about it, these same strategies that give you influence can completely destroy your relationships and turn you into exactly the kind of person you originally despised. I learned this the hard way, and I almost lost everything because of it. Soon, I'm releasing a video on the dark side of strategic thinking, where I'll show you exactly what this trap looks like, how to recognize if you're falling into it, and most importantly, how to use these power dynamics without becoming the villain in your own story. But I'm only sharing this with people who are serious about transformation. So if you want to see that video, you need to subscribe and hit the bell icon, because the algorithm only shows my content to people who are genuinely engaged. And here's the thing, that video is going to be controversial. I'm going to share some uncomfortable truths about human nature that most people aren't ready to hear, including the one psychological trigger that makes people either completely trust you or completely distrust you. And it has nothing to do with what you say. So subscribe now, because once you see what I reveal, you'll understand why some people seem to effortlessly command loyalty while others struggle to get basic respect. But before you go, I need to know something. In the comments below, tell me which type of person you've been. Type 1, the nice guy girl. You give everyone the benefit of the doubt you're always available, and you wonder why people don't appreciate you. Type 2, the strategist, you understand the game, you play it well, but sometimes you wonder if you're losing yourself in the process. Type 3, the transformer, you're ready to evolve from Type 1 to Type 2, but you want to do it without compromising your values. Just comment Type 1, Type 2, or Type 3, and I'll personally respond with a specific strategy tailored to where you are right now. And if you're watching this and thinking, this guy gets it, he understands what I've been going through, then you need to see more videos, because this is just the beginning. I've got a whole playlist on the psychology of influence coming soon, which dives deeper into each of these strategies, including the one video that instantly makes people see you as more valuable. But here's the most important thing, and this is something I've never shared before. Everything I just taught you, it's only phase 1. Phase 2 is about what happens when you start getting the respect you deserve. When people begin treating you differently, when you start wielding real influence, because that's when the real test begins. That's when you discover what kind of person you really are when you have power. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you soon. So subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video, because your transformation is just getting started. The question is, are you ready to change with it?